le'amo Yisrael bikdushato.
Yer koach.
Yeah.
We'll begin our Torah study this morning with the bracha, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, God, sovereign of the universe, who sanctifies us with the mitzvot and commands us to immerse ourselves, to busy ourselves in words of Torah. Sometimes vision comes from within. And we don't have to look too far to find sources of inspiration and joy, direction and focus. Our Torah teaches us to love one another as we love ourselves, because we are all created in the divine image. Our community teaches us how to celebrate joy, to mitigate pain, to care for those in need. Our God gives us a glimpse into eternal life as our feet remain planted on earth. And our leaders help us synthesize all of this input into a sacred tapestry of living. But sometimes we are exhausted, and the well of vision runs dry. Our connection to heaven is hard to find. Without the comforts of the touch points that normally anchor us and focus us, we lose our bearings, forget where we're going, and flounder in the stormy seas. It is these moments when we cannot look inward anymore for direction or wisdom. Sometimes vision cannot come from within, but must come from without. In our parshiot this week, Chukat and Wallach, we see our ancestors hit an emotional wall. Our tradition tells us that our narrative finds our story today at the beginning of the 40th year of the journey from slavery to the Promised Land. And so we can imagine, if we close our eyes, we can imagine our ancestors trudging along, knowing the end is close and yet still so far. In just a few chapters that we would read this morning, if we could take the Torah out, we get a glimpse of their travails, losing their beloved leaders, Miriam and then Aaron, watching Moses unravel as he strikes the rock for water, facing deadly thirst and hunger, losing faith and contending with a plague of stinging serpents. And they can't peacefully pass through Edom or Arad or Heshbon without engaging militarily. And perhaps the most confusing part of their wilderness journey, at times God is protector, and at times the aggressor. God delivers our ancestors in battle with mighty kings, but then smites them with plagues to punish them and torment them for complaining, for not having faith in God's power. So the question that presents itself when we get to this point in the Torah is, how far have we really come? When we first left Egypt, God wanted to take us straight to Israel. But shortly after the miracle at the Red Sea, when God split the waters so that we could walk through on dry land, our ancestors started complaining that it was better in Egypt, where in the nostalgic part of their mind, they had access to all the water and bountiful food they could possibly want. So at that point, God decided to prolong our journey so that over the span of 40 years, a new generation could rise, a generation unencumbered by the emotional baggage of servitude, open to the remarkable and miraculous opportunity to establish the Promised Land. Imagine God's and Moses' astonishment that even 40 years wasn't enough time to gain the distance and perspective that they needed. Perhaps it was the failing of our ancestors and their leaders, but more likely it was the result of sheer exhaustion. Our first parsha today, Chukat, reports the vast range of hardships that our people experienced, but the second parsha, Wallach, veers away to a completely unexpected place, a comical tale of a talking donkey, a nervous king, and a tenacious prophet. King Wallach of Moab, hearing of Israel's victories over the Amorites and the Edomites, fears for his own fate. He hires the powerful seer Balaam to curse the Israelites. But as you know, Balak's efforts are fruitless. Twice, Balaam offers sacrifices, summons the divine spirit, and trumpets God's words of strength and beauty. And the third time, God doesn't even need to supply Balaam with the content of his prophecy, because Balaam is now so awestruck by the breathtaking splendor and might of our people that his own words tumble out of his mouth. As King Wallach grows more and more incensed, Balaam faithfully reports his vision, Darach Kochav, that our star will rise. The fate of our people is not to be erased, but to live forever in strength and prosperity, faith and triumph. Our beloved Torah understands the experience of our ancestors, spinning their wheels, wondering when and how the journey through the wilderness will ever bear fruit, feeling so overwhelmed by the obstacles that surround them, so that a lofty vision of establishing a brand new society in a brand new land flowing with milk and honey seems so hard to grasp. But the Torah reminds us that another perspective is always available. Even if our ancestors couldn't access the best of themselves, God could. And by harnessing the power of the prophet Balaam, God could act once again as our torchbearer, sounding the call for all to hear that we are a nation of clear vision and direction. We have a purpose. We have a calling. I'm going to chant a couple of verses from our parsha from Balaam's third prophecy. Vayisa mishalo vayomar neum Balaam beno veor unum hakever shitom hayin neum shomea Yimriel vayodea dad elyon machaze shadai chaze nofel uglui enayim erenu velo ata ashurenu velo karov darach kochav miakov Vekam shavet miYisrael umechatz batei Moav vekarkar kol bnei Shet vehaya Edom Yeresha vehaya Yeresha seir oevav veYisrael oseh chayil. Balaam took up his theme and said, "Word of Balaam, son of Beor, word of the man whose eye is true, word of him who hears God's speech, who obtains knowledge from the Most High and beholds visions from the Almighty. Prostrate but with eyes unveiled, what I see for them is not yet, what I behold will not be soon. A star rises from Jacob, a scepter comes forth from Israel. It smashes the brow of Moab, the foundation of all children of Seth. Edom becomes a possession, Seir a possession of its enemies, but Israel is triumphant." My friends, I know that all we want is to return to normalcy. We are exhausted from watching the amounts of cases and deaths continue to rise, particularly in our city and our state. We are worried that our loved ones might fall ill. We are worried about losing our income. We are worried about the economy. We are worried about the emotional impact on our children. We are overwhelmed. We feel like this should be almost over, but instead, the data indicate that we are far from the finish line. And so we have to imagine what Balaam, or what a prophet with a different perspective, might say about us, about our shul, about the wider Jewish community, about our glorious country. What are the most important tenets that make us proud of who we are? What are the ideas that give us strength to keep trudging along through this unpredictable and dangerous wilderness? And they are humility and compassion, innovation and possibility, freedom and opportunity, equality and divinity. These are the threads of the glittering tapestry that hold us together. In times of strength, yes, but even more so in times of confusion and exhaustion. This Shabbat and this weekend in which we mark the birthday of our beloved country, I pray that we give ourselves the gift to change our perspective, to see ourselves through heaven's eyes. May we always live in freedom, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Shabbat Shalom.